Hey, you know what that music means? It's time for Lemon Live at 5. Welcome to the Don Lemon Show, everyone. We're so happy that you're here. We're live on a number of different platforms. If you're watching on that platform, then you already know. We like that you are here. Hit the like, subscribe, the heart, the follow, all of that. It affects the algorithms, and more people get to see us. So thank you very much. Thank you for the folks on TikTok who are already sending me galaxies and gifts. So thank you very much. Good evening. Welcome to the show, everyone. With Donald Trump now poised to return to the White House, bigots around the country are feeling emboldened, more emboldened than they did, I believe, after 2016. Now they're even more emboldened because it's a second term. They are expressing themselves openly in ways that we haven't seen since the first Trump term, saying slurs in public, posting bile online, and generally bullying any Black or brown or visibly queer person or any ethnic minority group that they can, and even women. You heard what Nick Fuentes said to women. We played that for you yesterday. It is disgusting, okay? But they are using new ways, really, to terrorize minorities, particularly Black people. You see, scores of Black people across this country have reported that they have received these text messages telling them that they had been selected to pick cotton at the nearest plantation. The FBI is saying this in a statement yesterday, that it was aware of the text, it has been in contact with the U.S. Department of Justice, and it encourages people who receive them to report the messages to local law enforcement authorities. But that's really a little comfort to Black Americans, because a lot of these are going to, most of them are going to young people and students. They're going to everybody, but young people and students. People as young as middle and high school students are getting these messages. And they don't seem like they're going to stop coming anytime soon. So I think I have the perfect person to discuss this and to really convey the outrage of what's happening around this. And that is my good friend and former colleague, because he's not old, is Dr. Cedric Alexander. He's an MSNBC law enforcement analyst, a former law enforcement executive, and a former member of President Obama Task Force on 21st Century Policing, and a former CNN contributor. Cedric, how are you?
How are you, my friend? Good to see you, Don.
I'm doing very well until, I started hearing about these bigots. Bigots going to bigot, my friend. I mean, and it is awful. So what do you make of what's happening here?
Well, at some point, I think the FBI will get to the root of where these
you do
where these emails are coming from. Yes, it's just a matter of time. And but let me say this: it's hard to find adjectives anymore to describe what's going on now. Right? We can call it nasty, vile, inhumane, all of those things, Don. Mm-hmm. But the frustration and the fear, particularly Black folks are feeling right now, is of concern to me. And notice I said very specifically Black people.
Right.
And I want to be very specific about that, because it touches us in a very, very different way considering our history. And when we think that we've gone away from a lot of this stuff, here we are in the 21st century, and we've never seen it this blatant and vile. But of course, we've had a presidential candidate who's a president-elect who spewed a lot of this vileness, and people saw it up on themselves as a way of saying, well, it's okay. Well, it's not okay. But, the days, weeks, and months ahead is going to be very telling in this country. But in spite of these text messages that are going around, Don, we are outraged. We have a host of feelings. We're angry. We're mad. We're all depends on who you talk to with this. But I'm going to say to everyone that's out there, that's an American citizen who has a conscience and a decency about themselves and a love for humanity, whether you're Black or not, is that you should be just as outraged as I am, you are, Don, as everyone else is. Every American in this country should be outraged that this is clearly not a demonstration of where we should be or where we like to think that we are. And I would just hope that as we continue to see this, and we're going to see more of it, I suspect, and it's going to come in different forms and fashions. But I would only encourage all of us as Americans, regardless of whether you're Black or white, or Hispanic, or however you identify, is that we all really have to stand together against this. And so, because it just can't be you and I talking about it, Don.
It's true. And we just can't be outraged in a silo.
White talk show and podcasts need to talk about this too.
Yeah. Well, you just can't be outraged in a silo, right? You've got to do something. I think you have to take action. And so I want to show you what we're talking about so that everyone can get a handle on exactly just how gross and vile this is. This is a news report that talks about these racist text messages, and it gives an explanation. Here it is.
Tonight, the FBI says it is aware of racist text messages sent to African Americans across the country, including some Houston area residents.
Yeah, we spoke with the mother of a Cy-Fair ISD student who received a text which said, in part, quote, report to a plantation to pick cotton.
Stephen Going is joining us now with what she had to say. Stephen?
Mia, Len, we don't know who is sending these messages or why, but it appears there is some kind of coordination. Perhaps this person just wanted to get people in a frenzy after the election. Whatever the reason, we want to warn you again, some of the language in these messages is offensive.
It's disturbing that you would send it to somebody.
Laura Bass Brown says she was immediately concerned on Wednesday after her daughter, a student at Cywoods High School, sent her a screenshot of a text she'd received.
And she said it's a message that her and some of her friends received. And so I'm like, which friends? And so she said, all of my black friends.
The message, which greeted the 15-year-old by name, says in part, you have been selected to pick cotton at the nearest plantation. Our executive slaves will come get you. At first, this mother thought,
maybe it's just hackers. I mean, with the election just happening.
But then her daughter sent screenshots of the messages her friends had also received.
They responded to the message, and a person responded back about them. They are going to have an owner, and the owner is going to feed them, make sure that, it's like they went on for other things. And I'm like, no, it's a person doing it.
The messages came from an unknown number. Bass Brown believes the sender used an app to spoof a new number. Tonight, she says, she considers the message a threat.
To have somebody threaten their lives or threaten their livelihood or threaten their family's livelihood, it becomes uncomfortable.
FBI Houston has confirmed it's aware of the messages, and in the past 48 hours, there have been multiple similar reports of Black Americans receiving messages like this in close to a dozen states. But wherever the messages came from, whether hackers, pranksters, or a foreign adversary, this mother says it's not okay.
It's like this should not be sent to any student, black, brown, blue, purple, yellow, whatever.
Now, attorneys general in states like Virginia have already condemned these messages. We reached out to the Texas Attorney General's office, and we've not yet heard back to our request for an interview or a statement. If you received one of these messages, you can report that to the FBI. Len, Mia.
Really troubling. Let's hope the FBI gets to the
Don, you're muted.
I do that every single time we go to a thing. I mute myself in case something happens. Cedric is the perfect person to talk to. Cedric, look, as you mentioned the outrage, but you see the text messages and the vile thing that it says. You say that law enforcement, what's the penalties for people could be for the folks who are behind this?
Well, chances are these are probably going to be federal charges, I would imagine. Centered around cyber threats, intimidation, etc.
Really?
And I can't tell you specifically, but the FBI looking into them is probably going to have some federal influence in terms of criminal prosecution. But I think it's important that wherever it happens, that every attorney general's office in this country have a responsibility to do what they can so that we can get to the bottom of this. And I don't care whether that's your state AG or your federal assistant AG or whatever the case may happen to be. This is outrageous. People shouldn't have to read these types of threatening texts, if you will, in this time we live in. I mean, just imagine, Don, we've had elementary and middle school kids who have received these text messages. They don't even know how to understand this and what it means and how that must make them feel and how their parents are going to explain this to them. But this is why I think it's so incumbent this is just not a Black problem. We're the target, but this is an American issue that every person in this country, our white friends, white colleagues, workmates, whatever the case may be, family members, we all have a responsibility to stand up and say, so here, this stuff, this is wrong. But let me say one more thing. I think the Trump administration, where they are right at this very moment, need to come out and say something, that we do not support this. We are not part of this. And we're going to do everything we can to take part and make sure those involved in this are brought to justice. That's what I believe they should do, because considering the fact in this most recent election on Tuesday, they ended up with a number of women votes, minority votes, Black male votes, other votes, even votes in New York City that they never had anticipated that they were going to receive from a number of different groups that supported Donald Trump. And they have a responsibility to all of those folks where they were not anticipating support from, to be able to say something, because for whatever reason people voted, then that's their right to do whatever they chose to do. But they have a responsibility to America in this country as an incoming administration, and you say now, this is not acceptable, and stop attaching our name to this, because their name have been attached to this in one of these text messages.
Cedric, we read our subscribers' comments and questions, and I think it's Liminal has a question, and I think it's a very good one. It says, Don Lemon, are these domestic actors or external threat actors sowing division? Would we know that at this point, and what would you think?
Well, the last report that I read, and I've been following this today, that this may have come out of Poland. So it could be international in scope, but they still are not totally sure yet. And this could be outside sources trying to further divide us in this nation, or it could be more domestic related. But I think, and I have confidence in the FBI, that they're going to get to the bottom of the source of this, and it's going to be reported publicly. So it very, very well could be domestically related, but or it could be international. But regardless of what it is, all of us in this nation, not just Black people, but all of us in this nation, should have a major concern about this and say, no, this is not who we are. We're not doing this. This ain't gonna happen.
People may be surprised about this, but Cedric, I remember when we worked together, there were the folks who were at the, it's not the first time that text messages like this have gone around, right? Remember the folks that were at the Trump rally, and this Black woman and they were throwing peanuts at her, and on and on and on. And right. there have been these sort of text messages in the past. What do you make of this? You said the Trump administration now, he's still president-elect, getting his cabinet together. What does it make you, does this make you fear at all? A second Trump administration, what does it say about the bigotry that's involved in that in a second Trump term?
Well, I mean, let's be honest, Don. I mean, throughout the course of this campaign over the last year, President-elect Trump has made some very outrageous statements around virtually every group that you can name. But none of it has ever been targeted at white people. It's all been targeted at everybody else. Mm-hmm. So he's, whether they want to accept it or not, they've set the stage for a lot of this. And in setting the stage for this, it does not benefit us as a nation. Now, you will hear Steve Bannon say that, well, we're not here to bring people together. Mm-hmm. Well, that's problematic, because in some ways we do as a nation have to stand for something. And I think this is an opportunity for President-elect Trump, not anybody else, but President-elect Trump, to be able to say, you know what, administration, we're not tolerating.
Cedric, they're going to say, look, there's no evidence that this is even connected to us. Why do you have us respond? I mean, look, the proximity, the timing is they're going to say there's no evidence. You know how they say, well, I don't know that person. This has nothing to do
Well,
with us.
certainly they're going to say that. Absolutely they are. But I think what anybody with a half a brain know can realize that we did not see this type of behavior begin to manifest itself the way that it is so publicly until this whole last number of months of this campaign has been going on. So I think it becomes incumbent upon all of us to be able to recognize, and people recognize, you cannot disconnect from this. You may want to disconnect from it, but you can't, because at Madison Square Garden, just a week or so ago, your people, whether you say you knew about it or not, was saying some very vile things about a host of people. So how do you disconnect from that? So, but here's the thing: whether you don't feel you part of it or not, but as a leader, an incoming leader, as President of the United States, don't you feel that you have some responsibility to say, this is just not acceptable? Whether you take any, and you don't have to take responsibility for it, because we can't accuse them of it. But what we can say that more recently in this environment that we've been living in under during this election period, it kind of, you know, the best of a person, your decency as a person. What does it take to just be able to say what they're saying about people, Black people, and threatening them, and this is not acceptable? Me as the incoming president of the United States, this is not acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you feel your vile remarks had anything to do with it or not.
Yeah.
It's just not acceptable.
You're sure there's a digital footprint and that they will be found? They will be found.
Well, the last reporting that I heard that, yeah, it is.
Okay.
But I think over time, and it's going to take some time, the FBI are good at this. They are good at this, Don. And I think in time we're going to identify who the culprits are, whether they're international law or
We've been
domestic.
talking a lot about the influence of social media and people who have these sort of digital platforms, right? And whether they should be moderated or regulated more, right? Whether you're talking about from X to Meta, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of them, whether TikTok is even going to stay, right? So we've been discussing all of that. Do you think that this Text Now has it's called an application called Text Now? Do they have a bigger responsibility to be able to sort of moderate and mediate these things? Could they be sued or held responsible in some way?
Well, the reporting I read or followed earlier today, Text Now has made a public statement. They don't support this in any kind of way whatsoever, and that they are working with the authorities through this. So they're not abdicating their responsibility, but there appears to be involved. They appear to be engaged with law enforcement to try to find the culprits behind this.
Yeah. Cedric, I hope they find the culprit behind it, and I hope there's no more to come. But unfortunately, I don't feel that is the case, considering the history here and what you and I have experienced in the past. And we thought that we were over that in 2020, and that we wouldn't have to deal with this sort of chaos and bigotry and racism. But here we are. Here we are dealing with it once again, and it you know, say it's just beginning. It hasn't even really begun. The administration is not even in place. And I look again, as you said. Right. There's nothing, I don't believe there's anything to directly link, but certainly the timing is suspicious. And I think people are really, as I said in the open, feeling emboldened about how they can express themselves in disgraceful ways.
Right. And you know, but what, you know, here's what I would say to people across the country, and more specifically, African Americans, Black people like myself and yourself and others who are directly being attacked here, is that continue to report these incidents to your local authorities and to your attorney general offices. Share those with others. And as we go through this, as intimidating and frightening as it may appear to be and is to many, is that we all just make sure we're having this experience by ourselves, but you're sharing it with others, whether it's family or friends or whomever. because it does feel, considering our history in this nation, it does feel frightening. And no one can feel the intensity of that than people who have gone through it. Their grandparents have gone through it, their parents, their grandparents. And this is just not where we're supposed to be at a nation at this very time, but this is where we are. So we're going to meet this head on, and we're not run. We're going to stay and we're going to fight. This is our country. We ain't going no damn where. We're going to be right here. So get used to it. And we ain't picking no goddamn cotton for nobody. Nobody. Period. My brother, good to see you again.
I miss you, man. I love it. We ain't picking no damn cotton, no. So don't get it to it. Yeah. Thank you, Cedric. I appreciate you. You be well, okay? I really appreciate it. It's good to see you. Come back early.
Good seeing you too, brother. All right.
Cedric Alexander, my dear friend, and just an amazing law enforcement analyst. So you heard what he had to say. So to the comments now. I'm so glad that you guys are here today. I wanted to have Cedric for a short time to talk about that. Period, says Tracy Smith. You're right. We're not having that sort of craziness. I agree with you. Period. We're not going back to that, to no cotton picking here. The resistance starts now, says you don't like my music. What do you mean by that? They're already scared of black people anyway, and don't make us mad, says FPI Live. That part right there says grand jurist about not going back. I am white. 53% of white women voted the lump in. Makes me sick, says Darla Lejour. Clea Murphy says, you're damn right. Tim K says, trolls, shove it. Scott S says, Charlottesville. Yeah, here we go back to Charlottesville. Yes, all of this. Most horrible human being ever existed, says Carl Todd. So look, it's unfortunate that these things are happening. But we're going to have to be stronger and rise above it and not get drawn into it, especially in your personal life, and also not get involved in it online as well, because it's easy to get it to be triggered by folks online with a text message like that. And I should probably warn you, you shouldn't respond to it. If you see it, you should probably capture it. I'm not sure if law enforcement tells you to delete it, but make sure you capture it. Actually, I'm sure you should probably save it as evidence, right? In some sort of suit that can be filed. Still Alive says, do you think blue states are safe? What's your take? And thank you for your contribution to independent media. I appreciate that. Thank you for your support of independent media, Still Alive. Do I think blue states are safe? Yes, I think blue states are safe. I don't think there's going to be any unrest unless someone comes to your, like they're visiting your city and they want to start something. You know, New York City, don't start none, no, won't be none. But I do think that these, you know, I don't want to call any names. They have been emboldened by, and maybe too emboldened, and they are going to write a check that they're, you know what, can't cash if they continue with this stuff, because someone is going to run up on the street, or they're going to mess with the wrong person, and then they're going to F around and find out. I know that's right. Don't you guys know that's right? And if you're sending stuff to black, and why are only black students getting these if it's not meant to be? Obviously it's meant to be racist, and why is it happening right after the election? How did they get all these young black people's phone number? How do they know their ethnicity? It's interesting, right? Now, there are only a few people, a few sites that have your information. They know your ethnic makeup because of your history. And so who is sharing that information with them? That's a question. I wish I'd asked Cedric that. Who is sharing that information with them? Which site would have information about what your ethnic background is? Think about that. Maureen Marfell, thank you, Don. Thank you, love what you do. Thank you, Maureen. So I say keep calm and carry on, my friends. And I would say go out and enjoy yourself. I know it's been a tough week, and get strong. And as I say on my shirt, Fight for your rights. Make sure you fight for your rights. Okay? This is just the beginning, so we need you to be strong. So have a safe, healthy, and happy weekend. I will see you either this weekend sometime or I'll see you back Monday at 10, okay? Take care. Don't let the fools and the bigots and the haters and the MAGA trolls get to you. Be cool. Hit the thumbs up before you get out. Subscribe to our content. Subscribe to our channel. It is free. And we appreciate you helping us to join to establish the LemoNation and to help our platform and our channel grow. And thank you for becoming a Lemonhead. I have like 2 brain cells left. It's been a long week. Bye, everybody. Take care. Love you guys.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure you hit the like button. It helps us with the algorithm. And also, we'd love for you to become a subscriber. So hit that button too. We're live every day at 10 a.m. Eastern Time and 5 p.m. Eastern, so there's plenty of content for you to check out.